Hello students, a very warm welcome to all. Now in this session we will study about the first chapter of biology, that is diversity in the living world, and the syllabus that must be on your fingertips. So the 4 chapters which are included in this unit, that is diversity in the living world, is first one is the living world, second one is biological classification, third one is plant kingdom, and fourth one is animal kingdom. So these are the 4 chapters which are included in the first unit of biology, that is the living world. So the first chapter, that is the living world. So we will start with our first chapter, that is the living world. So first of all, you must know about what is life. What is life? Now I will tell you that life, it is a unique, complex organization of molecules, complex organization of molecules that expresses itself through chemical reactions. Which leads to, so the life is, it is a unique complex organization of molecules that expresses itself through chemical reactions, which leads to growth, development, responsiveness, adaptation, and reproduction. So what is life? It is a unique complex organization of molecules. So in this there is organization of molecules. There different molecules are organized, and these molecules, they express themselves through chemical reactions. So when these chemical reactions occurs in these molecules, after that they led to growth, development, responsiveness, adaptation, and reproduction. So life means organization of molecules. Now after that, now you fully understood what is life, we will study characteristics of living beings. Characteristic of living beings. Now we know that there are different, for example, if we need to understand what is living and what is non-living, we say that living things move, non-living things do not move, living things show growth, non-living things do not show growth. But on the basis of, there are some properties of living things, on the basis of them we can classify whether it is living or it is non-living. Okay, there are some characteristics of living beings on the basis of which we can define whether a substance is, whether it is living or it is non-living. So we will study about the characteristics. So the defining feature means that characteristic property of living things according to which we can say that it is living or it is non-living. Now for example, if I will tell you that living things grow, this can we call this property a defining property? Living things grow. No, we cannot call this property as, we cannot call growth as a defining property. Why? For example, if we will take the example of clouds, these clouds, they also move from one place to another, they also show growth, so we cannot consider clouds as living things. So we can say that these properties, these characteristics of living things like growth, movement, we cannot call them as defining properties because some non-living things also show these properties. So characteristics of living beings, in this there are different characteristics of living beings. For example, living beings, they have definite shape and size. This is one of the characteristics of living things. There is organization. There is growth and development. There is metabolism. Reproduction is there. Homeostasis is there, etc. These are some of the characteristics of living things. For example, definite shape and size, organization is there, growth and development is there, metabolism is there, reproduction is there, homeostasis is there, etc., etc. Now we will define these characteristics one by one. First we will see definite shape and size. Definite shape and size. This is one of the characteristics of living things. We know that living organisms, they have definite shape and size, but living organisms have definite shape and size, but this shape and size, it may change within a narrow range. It may change within a narrow range. For example, we can say that if we will take the example of human beings, for example, the size of human beings, the length of there is, for example, 20, we will not see any human being which is 25 feet long. There is small variation in the change. There is small variation in the size of the human being. So we can say that this definite shape and size, it changes within a narrow range. Now, due to this property, that definite shape and size, due to this property of definite shape and size, we call living organisms as amorphous. Due to the property of due to this property of definite shape and size, we call living organisms as amorphous. And non-living things, they are called amorphous. So due to the presence of the property of definite shape and size, living organisms are called amorphous, and non-living things, they are called amorphous. Now this is one characteristics of living things. Second one is organization. Organization. What is organization? It means differentiation of a body into smaller units and subunits. So what is organization? Organization means differentiation of a body into smaller units and subunits, and which are arranged in an orderly manner. For example, I will tell you, when different cells combine together, they form tissue. When different tissues combine together, they form an organ, and organs form organ system, and organ systems form an organism. So this is the differentiation of a body. For example, if we will take the organism, we can see organ systems are there. In organ systems there are organs, and different tissues, when they combine together they form organs, and cells, when they combine together they form tissues. So we can say that organization is differentiation of a body in smaller units and subunits, which are arranged in an orderly manner. Now, due to the presence of organization, due to the presence of this property, that is organization in living beings, living being is called an organism. So why living being is called an organism? In living beings, there is differentiation of body into smaller units and subunits. That is, there is organization. That is why we call living beings as organism. Third one, growth and development. Growth and development. This is another characteristic of living beings. So first we will see what is growth, and then we will see what is development. Growth. It is permanent and irreversible change. So growth is a permanent and irreversible change in the size of a cell, an organ, or whole organism, Okay, so what is growth? It is permanent and irreversible change in the size of a cell, an organ, or whole organism. So when there is a permanent and irreversible change in the size of a cell, an organ, or whole organism, we call it as growth. So this is accompanied by increase in weight, mass, number, etc., etc. Okay. Now we will see about development. So now we will see what is development. Now what is development? It is the sum total of changes that occur in an organ or organism. Sum total of changes that occur in an organ or organism. So the different types of changes that occur in an organ, whether it is an organ or an organism, and the sum total of changes which occur in an organ or organism, that is called development. So what is development? Sum total of all the changes that occur in an organ or organism during its lifetime. Now one important thing I will tell you about that development, about this growth and development, is that increase in mass and increase in number of individuals. Increase in mass and increase in number of individuals, they are called the twin characters of growth. Important point. Increase in mass and increase in growth, they are called the twin characters of growth. So this question can be framed in NEET examination. What are the twin characters of growth? So increase in mass and increase in growth of increase in mass and increase in number of individuals, increase in mass and increase in number of individuals, they are the twin characters of growth. Now we know that in plants, if we will take the example of plants, growth continues throughout life. Growth continues throughout life. Okay. Why? Because they have meristematic tissues. They have meristematic areas where this cell division it occurs regularly. They have meristematic tissues. So this is one more important point in plants. Growth continues throughout life because they have meristematic tissues, where in these areas, meristematic tissues, growth occurs regularly. Now, in animals, if we will take the example of animals, Growth occurs up to a certain age. So stand up to a certain age. After this, growth occurs up to a certain age. After this, cells divide only to replace worn out and lost cells. So this is one more important point here. In plants, growth continues throughout life as they have meristematic tissues, and in these areas, in these meristematic tissues, growth occurs, that is cell division occurs regularly. But in animals, growth occurs up to a certain age, up to a certain limit, after which cells divide. But these cells divide only to replace worn out cells and lost cells. Okay? Now, three processes are involved in growth. Three processes are involved in growth. One is cell division. Second is cell enlargement. And secretion of apoplasmic substances. Three processes are involved in growth. One is cell division, another is cell enlargement, and secretion of apoplasmic substances. About this apoplasmic and protoplasmic we will discuss. Now, growth and development occurs by two ways. Growth and development, we are discussing about growth and development. Two types are there. One is intussusception and another is accretion. Intussusception and accretion, these are the two types of growth and development. Intussusception and accretion. Now, growth and development, two types, that is intussusception and accretion. Now we will see what is intussusception and accretion. Intussusception means that living organisms they show internal growth due to addition of materials and formation of cells, inside the body. For example, embryo development is there. So what is intussusception? Living organisms, they show internal growth. Why? Due to addition of materials and formation of cells inside their body. Now, we will take, this is the property of living organisms. Living organisms, they show internal growth due to addition of materials and formation of cells inside their body. Now, non-living substances, non-living things or non-living articles, they increase in size. Non-living articles also increase in size. Increase in size due to addition of similar materials on their outer surface. Addition of similar materials. So this is the property of living organisms, that is they show internal growth due to the addition of materials and formation of cells. And accretion, this is the property of non-living things, that is non-living things, they increase in size due to the addition of similar materials. For example, rocks are there, stones are there, mountains are there, etc., etc. Now, we will discuss about apoplasmic and protoplasmic growth and growth producing substances. Growth producing substances. First, protoplasmic and apoplasmic. Now, protoplasmic substance, these are the components of living matter. Components of living matter. like cytoplasm and nucleus. Cytoplasm and nucleus. So protoplasmic substances, these are the components of living matter like cytoplasm and nucleus. Apoplasmic substances, these are non-living materials. Non-living materials formed by cells. For example, cell wall is there, bone matrix is there, etc. So we can say that protoplasmic substance, these are the components of living matter, and apoplasmic substances are non-living materials. Those non-living materials which are formed by cells. For example, cell wall is there. Cell wall here it is cell wall. Cell wall, it is non-living material, but it is formed by cells. So you can now tell protoplasmic substances and apoplasmic substances. Okay? Now, after this we will study about one more characteristic of living organisms, that is metabolism. Metabolism. Now, sum total of various biochemical reactions occurring in a cell. So what is metabolism? Sum total of various biochemical reactions, occurring in a cell. So what is metabolism? Sum total of various different biochemical reactions which are occurring in a cell, that is called metabolism. Now, one important point here I will tell you that this metabolism, it is the defining property of, I will write it here, it is the defining property of all living organisms. Without any exception. Without any exception. So, metabolism, it is the defining property of all living organisms without exception. Okay? So, metabolism is sum total of various biochemical reactions which are occurring in a cell. It is the defining property of all living beings without any exception. So it means that we can say that on the basis of this property, whether it is living or it is non-living, if we will find this property in any thing, we can say that it is living, because only living things show this property. That is, only living things, various different biochemical reactions are occurring in cell. Now, it means that in non-living things, they do not exhibit this property. No non-living thing exhibits metabolism. Now, we know that metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body also, but an isolated metabolic reaction which is taking place outside the body of an organism. For example, if we will take the example, if we will are going to start a metabolic reaction in a test tube, that neither we can say that it is a living nor that is non-living. So an isolated metabolic reaction outside the body of an organism, for example, performed in a test tube, that is neither living nor non-living. Okay, so an isolated metabolic reaction which is occurring outside the body of an organism, for example in a test tube, that is neither living nor it is non-living. Okay, now metabolism, it is of two types. Metabolism, two types of. First one is anabolism, second one is catabolism. Anabolism and catabolism. Once again I will repeat that metabolism is the characteristic, it is the defining property of all living organisms without any exception. So this is the defining property. On the basis of this characteristic, on the basis of this property, we can say whether it is living or non-living. If it is present, we can say that it is living. If it is not present, it is non-living. Now, this anabolism and catabolism, this means building up reactions. Building up, these are the breakdown reactions. Breakdown. So here, this building up, these are called building up reactions, these are called breakdown reactions. It is also called constructive metabolism. Constructive metabolism, it is called destructive metabolism. Destructive metabolism. This is constructive metabolism and this is destructive metabolism. This anabolism, it includes all the building up reactions. So it includes all the building up reactions which are occurring. Building up reactions. And it includes breakdown reactions. For example, photosynthesis is there. Photosynthesis is there. We know that photosynthesis is there. We know that what is photosynthesis, and this involves respiration, because respiration means breakdown. Respiration, digestion, we know that what is digestion, it is breakdown. These are breakdown reactions. And photosynthesis is, it is a building up reaction. Okay, now this involves synthesis of complex substances. Here complex substances are formed. Synthesis of complex substances. And it involves breakdown of complex substances. Breakdown of complex substances. Okay, so all the reactions in which there is synthesis of complex substances, they are called anabolic reactions, or the property is called anabolism. And all the reactions in which there is breakdown of complex substances, we call that as catabolic reactions, and the property is called, and this process is called catabolism. Okay, now another characteristic is there, that is reproduction. Reproduction. We know that reproduction means formation of new individuals of similar kinds. Formation of new individuals of similar kinds. Formation of new individuals of similar kinds. We know that there are two types of reproduction, that is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. We will not go in detail about sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction, that we will study separately in next session. Now, one important point about reproduction is that the reproduction, it is not essential for survival of individuals. Remember this, not essential for survival of individuals. Not essential for survival of individuals. For example, if in an organism reproduction is not taking place, we can't say that it is not living. It is not living. So reproduction is not essential for survival of individuals. There are different organisms. For example, in case of humans, there are different people who don't want to marry. It means we can't say that they are not living. We can't say that they cannot survive. So reproduction is not essential for survival of individuals. One more important point is it is not defining feature of life. Not defining feature of life. For example, there are some organisms which are not able to reproduce. We cannot say that they are non-living. There are some, for example, sterile humans are there. They are not able to reproduce. We can't say that they are non-living. So it is not defining feature of life. For example, this type of question can be framed from this. Which of the following is a defining property of living beings? There are different options will be given there. For example, metabolism, reproduction, etc., etc. So now you can understood that why this reproduction is not the defining feature of life. Defining feature of life. Okay? Why? Because there are some organisms which are not able to reproduce, so we cannot call them non-living. That is why it is not the defining feature of life. Now after that, we will study one more characteristic, that is homeostasis. So what is homeostasis? Now, homeostasis is the maintenance of constant homeostasis. Remember, this is homeostasis, not homeostasis. That is another term. Maintenance of constant and favorable internal environment. Environmental conditions. So what is homeostasis? It is the maintenance of constant and favorable internal environmental conditions which are suitable for the functioning of body organs. So what is homeostasis? It is the maintenance of constant and favorable internal environmental conditions which are suitable for functioning of body organs. Homeostasis. Now another characteristic is there, consciousness. So what is consciousness? It means the awareness of surroundings, to know about its surroundings and response to external stimuli. It is awareness of surroundings and response to external stimuli. When there is change in the surroundings of an organism, in order to show some response to that change in the surroundings, that is, we can say that response to external stimuli. External stimuli means if there is any change in the surroundings of an organism, so consciousness means it is the awareness of surroundings and response to external stimuli. Now we know that stimuli, they are perceived by sense organs. Okay, they can be physical, chemical, biological. Okay, that's stimuli. Now, the change or reaction which an organism produces. So we can write here the change, visible change. It is visible change. The change or a reaction which an organism produces as a result of stimulus is called response. So awareness of surroundings and response to external stimuli mean a change in surroundings. This change can be either physical, it can be also chemical, and it can be biological. So when there is change in the surroundings of an organism, after that an organism shows a change, a visible change or reaction, okay, that is called response. This consciousness is also the defining feature of living beings. Now we know that we have sense organs, so we can for example, if there is change in the surroundings, we can sense these changes by our sense organs. But we know that plants do not have sophisticated sense organs. Plants do not have sense organs. Plants do not have sense organs, but plants, they respond to external factors. They respond to external factors. For example, light, temperature, moisture is there, etc., etc. Okay, so we know that they don't have sense organs, but they respond to external factors. For example, we will take the example of Mimosa pudica. It is the which plant? It is called touch me not plant. If we will touch this plant, if we will touch the leaves of this plant, there is folding of leaves. So this is also this is the response to external stimuli. For example, external stimuli, we touch it, and in response to that, it shows response. That is, there is folding of leaves in Mimosa pudica. Folding of leaves. So consciousness, it is also the defining feature. We know that aware of surroundings and response to external stimuli, the change or reaction which an organism produces as a result of stimulus, that is called response. Now next characteristic is adaptation. So what is adaptation? Adaptation means any useful, inheritable, changes in form, function, and behavior which enables an organism to adjust well and successfully in its environment. Okay, adaptation means any useful change or inheritable change, in form, function, and behavior which enables an organism to adjust well and successfully in its environment, as a result of which an organism is able to adjust well and successfully in its environment. That is called adaptation. Now there are short-term adaptations and long-term adaptations that we will see in the next lecture. Thank you.